Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. So today's video, we're going to talk about mining hardware. We're going to talk specifically about timing. When is the best time to buy an ASIC miner? Okay, so we're not going to give you exact dates, but I'm going to give you things you got to think about because in reality, a lot of it is up to you and how you view things, your perception of the timeline as far as Bitcoin prices go, right? So we're going to talk in depth about that. So if that sounds interesting, guys, stay tuned. All right, so the biggest thing you got to take into account is the Bitcoin halving. Okay. Yes, all these other halvings from all these other coins are going to have an effect later on in the future, most likely after this halving. But the one we want to pay the most attention to, because this is the biggest catalyst for crypto as a whole, okay, is the Bitcoin halving specifically, which is about a year and a couple months away. Okay, at this point, we could say it's about a year away. It's pretty crazy, right? We have already been this far in the bear market, but that is the number one catalyst, right? So in a perfect world, right, we would pick up the most efficient miner that just released right in that time frame, right? Is that really realistic though? Is that really the best prospect? Probably not. Reason being is that this is not, something that nobody knows about, right? We are all well aware that that is the number one catalyst. So what's going to happen is that the prices are going to increase significantly leading up into the halving. Okay? So that's why depending on where you think we are at in the timeline, this may be some of the cheapest time to buy miners. Okay? So in reality, it really is dependent on you and what your beliefs are as far as where we're at in this timeline. If you think we bottomed already, we hit that 15.5 and that was it, this may be the cheapest time. If you're more in the mindset that, we're having this pump right now, but I think we're going to dump in the summer, then that will be the cheapest time. But the most ideal time to consider buying a miner would be this year. Okay? Mainly because of that. Because again, as the prices increase of the coins, right, the value, the price of the miners is going to increase. We're already seeing this, right? Where it's only been a few weeks into this pump we've had this year, and we've already seen it. Okay? Not only from third-party vendors. For any of you guys who caught that post I did this morning, there's going to be a new K7 drop tomorrow morning. And we already saw that even from bitmain, from the manufacturer directly, it's a 20% increase, right? And if the prices continue, or even if they stay sideways from this point, if we range in this point, then they're only going to continue to increase, right? So you really have to take that into consideration that the closer we get to the halving, the higher the likelihood of these prices going up. Okay, so the biggest thing to factor in is just availability as a whole. Okay, it's pretty cool right now that we can go literally even from Bitmain's own website and just spot buy right now. Okay, 12 months from now, this is not going to be happening. They're going to have these releases just like how they've had with these altcoin miners where they drop them at a certain time and they're sold within 30 seconds. Okay, and at these prices. Take note of these prices right now because again, in 12 months, these same exact machines are going to be going for 3, 4, 5 times as much. Okay, and then let alone that's from there. So again, they're going to be available, right? But the prices are not going to be what they're at right now. And in many cases, it'll be the same machines that are relevant at that time. Okay, for any of you guys looking at Bitcoin miners, this S19XP, chances are this may be the lowest that they go. Okay, still holding out for a $3,000 price point, but realistically, as the days go on, it's less and less and less likely. Okay, I may end up still trying to get one, but it's not going to be a 3K most likely. So just something really to factor in is just these prices, right? We now have good comparisons. We know what they costed in the bull market, and we know what they're costing right now. Okay, so you really, really got to factor that in. Okay, availability is good right now. We can get them at launch, at retail, at potentially the lowest prices. And that's not just, the Bitcoin miners. This is even for like the altcoin miners. I know a lot of you guys love these gold shell miners, these little KD box miners. And these may be the lowest that they go also, especially if the prices of these altcoins continue to increase. Right now, some of these we've been getting like 2, 3x's right now in a bear market on these altcoins. Okay, so again, the number one thing we know is that the price of the miner is directly related to the price of the coin. Okay, again, as it increases, the prices of these guys will increase. Okay, so you got to really factor that in. The difference being, though, is that there's a lot more risk with these altcoin miners versus Bitcoin. People tend to prefer Bitcoin because it's more of a safer bet, right? Again, none of this is financial advice, but typically it's most likely guaranteed that we'll see a 4 to 5x at minimum for BTC, meaning we're going to see a similar type of increase for the miner itself. Okay? And typically, as new miners come out, yes, the hash rate goes up. Yes, it affects profitability, but it's not to the extent of what's going on with these altcoin miners. Okay? Specifically, right now, what's happening with them is something that is actually fairly unique. This is not something that's typical where we get such a much more efficient miner that just decimates everything that's on there, right? So you really got to factor that in, whether or not the miner that you're purchasing now is actually even still going to be relevant in the bull market. Okay, you really got to research it and see, okay, worst case scenario, will it still be relevant in the bull market? Because at the end, that's what matters. Okay, I know the profitability on a lot of these isn't too hot, but you got to factor in what the profitability could be like in the bull market. But you got to factor in the extreme increase in difficulties by then. Okay, especially I'm going to give the example with Kadena because of the possibility for such an extreme increase in the difficulty. Okay, this isn't something where like, okay, it's potential for like a 20% increase, 30. It's potentially like 500-600%, especially within a 2-year span. Okay, just with this KA3 coming out, more than likely it's going to be the 200 to 300% increase. Okay, not taking into account the potential release of like a KD7, a KD Max 2 in the spring, and then factor there's going to be another generation before the halving, right? Most likely there'll be another KD Box 3 by next January, which will still make it in time before the halving, right? And then the next generation of the IB Link. So you gotta really consider whether or not that miner that you're purchasing now will be relevant there. Okay? So it depends on what you're thinking, what your plans are for the future. Okay? And whether or not how bullish you are on that potential project. Okay? Because there is a lot of risk, but if you believe in that project, you have a specific price target that you think it'll hit, then it still may be worth it. Right? I know with the KD Box 2, right now it's not profitable and most likely that it's going to change drastically. But if you still believe that we're going to hit at bare minimum the previous all-time high, which was like $25, even if it's only producing, let's say, a third of a kadena a day, if it's at $25, that's still $8 a day, right? So you have to kind of factor that in. You have to think about those projections and if it's worth it to you. But if you don't see that happening, then you got to see if it's worthwhile or not, right? Because chances are, yes, it may hit previous all-time high, but it may not, right? As we've seen with previous coins, some of them never regain that all-time high again. Okay, so you have to factor in that worst case scenario. So like for me, my personal threshold, I'm putting it at half of previous all-time high, which is very reserved. I like to temper my expectations. I like to think more worst case scenario. Hopefully, right, Kadena gains traction and we go beyond that, right? But I'm preparing worst case scenario, okay? So for like me, my personal strategy is to try to get the most efficient, most powerful miner now so that I know most likely it'll be able to compete with whatever comes out during that time. Because most likely if bitmain releases, let's say a KA4, it'll most likely be after the halving. It'll be well into the bull market. And at that point, for me, it would essentially be irrelevant because it's probably going to cost like 40, 50 grand, right? You have to factor those projections in. So for like me, that's why for me, that was a definite buy with the KA3 and the K7. Because I think they're so far ahead of everything that even whatever Gold Shell releases this year won't catch up to it. And even whatever they release next year may be able to compete with it. So that's why I'm confident in those two purchases, because I think they will be more than relevant leading into that bull run. Okay, so those are things you really got to factor in. You got to really think about. Okay, so one big recommendation I would give, right, not just considering availability, but also narrow down which coin you're into. Narrow down which miner you're into so you can really stay in that like mind frame, right? You can really research it. You can really keep up with it so you can see the likelihood of when a new miner will release. Okay? Like I was giving the example with Kadena there, but another example I'll give is with the Litecoin miners, the L7, the Dogecoin miners. We know that the previous L7 released last November. To me, most likely, based off of their release cycles, there will most likely be a refresh this year, possibly getting debuted or announced, not necessarily debut, it most likely won't even drop this year, but chances are it'll get announced sometime in one of these WDMS summits. Typically, they have one sometime in the late spring, early summer, and then in the fall. My prediction, not based off of anything other than just previous release cycles, is that it'll get announced at one of those two, and it'll be a 5 nanometer version of the L7. Okay? Will it be like a crazy efficiency gain? It really depends, right? We don't know what's in the L7. The assumption is that it's most likely a 7 nanometer chip, but it can really vary, right? So we don't know if it'll be something where it'll like double or if it'll be a modest gain closer to like what the S19J and the XP was, where it's like a 20% efficiency gain. Okay? I'm more in the mindset that it'll most likely be something like that. But again, we don't know, especially with all this local tech stuff. We don't know if maybe they'll try to release the max baddest thing that they possibly can. We don't know. The other thing I'm thinking, again, based off of previous release cycles, is most likely they'll also try to release a ETC miner. Okay, we know that they released that E9 right at the end of the merge, right? But as of right now, somewhat outdated, right? They've almost been getting outpaced by these Jazz miners and these iPolos. And to me, most likely because they did that, they had that investment in ETC. I don't know if you guys remember that sometime last year, they did a $10 million investment into ETC. My opinion, most likely, same thing. If that new L7, new L8, new L9, whatever, doesn't get announced, it most likely will be an ETC miner. Again, based off of that 5 nanometer platform. So these are things, again, you got to research. Those are just things that I'm coming up with, just purely speculative, just based off of the releases, based off of the technology they currently have and the technology that was in the previous miners. Okay? Because so far we know that the XPs definitely are on that 5 nanometer platform, and most likely the KA3, the K7, and the HS3 are also on that 5 nanometer platform. Okay, and that's also another reason why I'm confident that they'll be the most relative by then, because we know that Goldshell and Ibeling do not have access to those types of chips. Maybe in 2 years they will, right? But by that time, we're going to be well in the bull market. I'm not going to be in the market for a miner. My purpose is to try to get a miner right now while it is cheap. Okay, I'm not trying to get one in the peak of the bull run when an XP is now 15 grand, right? Or the XP Model 2 is that much, right? The S19 XP Pro or something. We don't know. But to me, again, you really have to narrow down your coin so you can really narrow down into that miner so you can keep up to date when most likely another release will come out, right? And whether or not it'll be worth it. Because even right now, the price difference between the S19J Pros and the S19 XP, it's almost not even worth it to get the XP because of just the gain isn't that much. Unless you start researching and you see where the potential would be. Like again, I've been heavily researching the XPs, and if you guys seen that overclocking video, that made me super bullish on getting an XP because so far the overclocking potential on the XP now does make it worth it, right? On the factory clock, not so much. That 20% efficiency gain, I don't think was worth, 2 to 3x the price. But now the fact that it looks like we're going to be able to overclock that thing to such an extreme amount and remain with that good efficiency, that makes me more bullish on the XP and getting it at the price that it is, right? But again, that's because I'm now focused on that specific miner, that I can keep up with the news on that miner. So that even if a revision like comes out the S19 XP Pro, I don't see it being much better than currently what's there. And especially for the price that it'll be, because if it does release, it'll be way closer to the halving. Okay, meaning it's going to be a lot more expensive. Okay, again, I'm more in the market for cheap miners right now. So that's why ideally, to me, this year as a whole would most likely be the cheapest year to purchase. Okay, but again, you really got to factor in what coins you're into, what miner you're getting into, and whether or not it's going to be relative in the bull market, because that's where the money's made, right? You want to get the most powerful miner you can leading into that bull market, because you're going to earn the most amount of coins and your miner will be worth the most amount of money. Okay, but this is why you have to have your plan also. You have to see what your intentions are. Are you planning to just get the miner and mine all the way through the bull market, even go beyond it, even mining after it? Or are you planning to get the most powerful and then try to sell it at the closest to the peak that you can, right? You have to start thinking about those projections so that way you can see if it's even worth it to have, okay? Especially with like BTC, the halving is going to come up, okay? You really got to factor those things in. You really got to narrow it down, and you got to see what makes most sense to you, right? Are you going to go with Bitcoin, which is the safer bet, right? Or are you going to go with one of these altcoin miners and hope that we get a similar run that, 2021 had with the kadena miners, where the prices were, the freaking KD6s were like 50K, right? Producing a crap ton of money a day. Are you going to take that risk, or are you going to take the safer risk? Or are you going to do a little bit of both, right? Are you going to buy one of these altcoin miners and then hedge it with an XP, right? Or any Bitcoin miner. I'm referencing that one, but reality, there's what's miner, there's all these others you got to factor in also. Okay, so you have to kind of set up that plan. For me, that was the initial plan, right? Kind of go a little degen with these altcoin miners and then take a safer bet with an XP. But I may go all degen instead. We will see. But again, I'm still continuing to research. I'm still looking at it. And again, my personal belief is that we may run up now, right? We may run up all the way through the spring, but then most likely we will see a drop sometime in the near future, right? Potentially with the summer. Like my window is realistically around the summer. Okay, I'm waiting for the Miami Bitcoin conference to see if anything gets announced there, and to see if anything gets announced from bitmain and in any other summits coming up. Okay, so I'm still on the fence. I have purchased those that I did purchase only because, again, in my research, I'm fairly confident that they will definitely be relevant in the bull market. Okay, but again, this is purely up to you. These are things that you need to research, and it's just your belief on it, right? Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. Take other people's. Watch other YouTube videos. Gain all the knowledge you can. Jump in those Discords. Jump in those Reddits. Keep up to date with things. Okay, so that's why it helps to narrow down those coins, because otherwise it's a crap ton of work. Keeping up with these different projects, it's very time consuming, right? But if you have it narrowed down and you're interested in certain projects, keep up to date with at least those. That way you kind of have a sense of what's coming, because as you start deep diving into those fields, into those coins, into those miners, into those projects, you start getting a feel for what's coming. Okay, and you start trying to make sense of things in your own head. That way you can make the best possible decision for you. Because at the end of the day, you have to come up with that decision. You have to come up with your own timeline, with what your gut feeling of what's going to happen. Not with what the moon boy on YouTube's doing, or the bear on YouTube's doing. You have to come up with your own conclusion. Okay, like me personally, like I've mentioned in the past, I watch everybody, from like the moons to the bears to everything in between. I like taking opinions from here. Okay, that makes most sense to me. I like this makes sense. I don't really have one person that I super follow, right? I kind of like getting, input from a lot of people. That way I can come up with my own conclusion, put my own spin on things, and I have a different perspective on things than most. Okay, but I know what's helped me in the past. I know what helped me with GPU mining, and I'm now putting that experience into this. And so far, it's been working out fairly well, right? Time will tell, right? We'll see what ends up happening. But again, this is why you have to come up with your plan, see what makes most sense to you, right? And at the end of the day, just continue with that plan. Like, I'm basing everything off of the Bitcoin cycle, going based off of that, and I'm going based off the research into the projects I am into. And again, the likelihood that they will be relevant come this bull market. I have my own personal plan put in place, and I'm following it, and it's been working great so far. Okay, but it's also being very disciplined, even doing things that are hard to do, like even right now with these pumps. I have been taking profits, and it's super, super hard to sell because, again, my big thing has been accumulation. But even this first, gala pump was very hard to sell some, but I'm selling with the intention of just rebuying when it's lower. And in fact, it worked at that point. I ended up with just like 10% more crypto all around on my portfolio because of that. But again, it's because I had that mindset and I felt confident in that it was going to swing down. Not financial advice, not saying anything like that, not even recommending for you to do that, right? It's just things that I'm in tune with and plans that I have and things I'm abiding by, right? But yeah, guys, let me know what you're thinking and doing in the comments, right? Are you buying now? Have you purchased now? Are you still researching? Are you still on the fence? Did you get some of these box miners? Are you waiting to see if Gold Shell has a KD7 come in? Are you still looking at in the future? Or are you going to wait till the end of the year? Are you going to wait up to the halving? Let me know. Let me know what you're thinking, right? This would be a good discussion. So again, guys, please comment, like, and subscribe. Hopefully you got some good value from the video. Hopefully I gave you something to think about, right? Things you got to take into consideration because, again, ASICs are a huge investment, okay? These little box miners are not so much. $300, $500, still a good chunk of change, but the risk isn't as there. But with these ASICs, these, 5, 6, 7,000, it's a lot riskier. I wouldn't really recommend, especially this outrageous price with the K. I'll do another video regarding why that's not the best idea to buy these crazy inflated prices. But yeah, guys, hopefully, again, I gave you guys something to think about, some things to take into consideration, and hopefully you liked it, you enjoyed it, you got some value from it. And thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.